back to Penniac Wilderness. So in today's video, my plan is to do a tour of the Dovetail log cabin, and we'll walk through the different rooms of the cabin, the original cabin, the extension, show you the layout, design, furnishings, and show you what I did for my build, and hopefully give some ideas for those of you who may be thinking of doing something like this on your own. And yeah, so I just made a coffee out front in the extension, and I'm gonna have some breakfast, and then we'll get started on our tour. So thanks for watching. Okay, so while my breakfast is cooking, I'll start with a tour of the main room of the original cabin. And I refer to this part of the cabin as the back, and that is the front. The front sort of faces north and the back somewhat south. But anyway, so you come in this door here, and on the right hand side as you walk in, I have a wood box where I store wood, which is kind of nice because I can bring the wood in, put it in the wood box, and then take it from the wood box and put it in the fire, and all of that doesn't create a whole lot of mess carrying wood through the cabin. I have a box on top where I store my kindling and some newspaper, and this was a box that was one of my grandfather's. And that's the entranceway. I have a mat that I keep my shoes on, and then a series of coat hooks around the cabin. And those are nice for drying and just hanging equipment and gear and jackets and whatnot. So I usually put my backpack on this one, some of my dirtier clothes over here, and then things I need to dry closer to the cabin or closer to the stove. So yeah, that's the entrance of the cabin. One other thing about the entrance that I forgot to mention, so I put in this solar powered light, and the Cabin Depot is a shop near here that I work with a little bit, and anyway, it runs on its own solar panel. It's got a switch, and you can come in and press that switch, and it doesn't draw any power off my main solar setup. It's just an independent circuit. So that's right here at my entrance. So when it's dark or in the winter when you come in, you can have the light easily turned on. So moving around the cabin, next up, well, two things. So I often do have a chair here, somewhat of a rocking chair, but I just removed it for the video. And then next is my stove. So this is a stove I got on an online classified site. Nothing particularly special about it. It's probably on the big side for the space that it's heating. But yeah, so here on the stove, I have my frying pans, which I store here. I have a plumbing pipe rack that I built, which is nice. So you can either dry boots on this sometimes, or put pots and pans or things that are hot, or just for storage. And then behind the wood stove, I built a basic heat shield, and that's just built out of roofing tin. But when you feel behind there, the wood stays nice and cool, and it's spaced out from the wall a couple inches. And then below the stove is a hearth. Again, bought that online and lined it with some bricks from a old building that was torn down not too far from here. And that's my stove setup. My stovepipe goes up vertically and then takes a bit of a turn and then goes up through the roof. And that was done because I wanted two things. I wanted the stove in the corner of the cabin, but I also wanted the stovepipe to go out of the roof near the peak, just to prevent any issues with snow sliding off the roof and damaging the stovepipe. I'm not 100% sure if that was the best idea, because a vertical stovepipe would be nice, but that's what I did here at the cabin. So for breakfast here, I'd eat different things, but lately I've been having this peanut butter avocado toast. But I go through phases of different things, and this is not a bad one for now. So I'll just put peanut butter, avocado, bacon, banana, and you might notice this tool here. It's called a spud, so it's used for peeling logs, and I've started working on a completely new project, which I'm not going to focus on in this video. But that project requires me to use a spud. I'm working with my neighbor he's appeared in a lot of my videos. His name's Billy. So lives off grid, him and his father, a couple miles from here. And he's always wanted to build something of his own to live in, and I'm going to try to help him with that. So anyway, this spud is one that my grandfather would have used. My grandfather did a few different things. He was a guide and a bit of a carpenter as well, and built some of the houses in this area that I live. So anyway, this tool will be something that will appear in an upcoming video. And it's old. As you can see, it was built by a blacksmith, not with a weld. And so the way you'd use this is you peel a log and hit it with a wooden mallet. So continuing around the cabin, in this main room I have 4 windows. So on the kind of east and west sides I have a bit larger windows, and the north and south or front and back 2 smaller. The side ones crank out. I got these, as I did many things, on an online classified site. So those ones crank out, and then the front and back ones open and close vertically. The front one obviously now no longer goes outside, it just goes into the second room. And for now the window's still there, and that is useful sometimes if I just want to heat up this space here. I can shut that window, shut that door, and it heats up quicker. So this would be my kitchen setup. And so I'll break that down. Basically I have some shelving that I've put again on plumbing pipes and stained it, sealed it, and that's just for storage of a few things. Glasses, keep the glasses upside down to keep dirt and mice out, although I really have not had, knock on wood, any issues with mice. The only time I've seen a mouse in here was one night that I left the door open, a crack, and a mouse got in. I do keep a couple mouse traps around just in case, but knock on wood, so far no issues. But anyway, for the kitchen, yeah, so here I have a basic sink, and then a pine countertop that again I stained and finished. And I bring in drinking water, but for bathing, dishwashing, cleaning, that sort of thing, I just use water from the stream and heat it on the stove for most of the year. I do have a propane heated solar powered shower outside, and that's something I will show in another video. So sink, countertop, and then below the countertop I have some more storage built in, as well as a bucket underneath the sink. And the bucket under the sink just drains the sink water, and then I would dump the bucket every now and then. There's other ways to do that. You see people putting pipes out and whatnot, but I just think this is easy enough and does not create another hole in the cabin for insects, mice, or temperature to get in and out. So that's the kitchen, and then this kitchen, there's the window, as I mentioned earlier, is still here where you can go into the other room. So the last part of this part of the cabin tour is the upstream side, so sort of the east side of the cabin. And I have a couch here, and the couch is really nice. You can sit here, you're across from the fire. It's a kind of a relaxing place to have a nap or sit. And the couch was something that I bought used again, and I think I got that from Habitat for Humanity. So place a charity that you can buy used household items from. And that's most of the first room of the cabin. Now we'll head into the second room, or the extension to the cabin. The doors that I put on the cabin are quite basic, but they're nice. They're large pine, and I cut a gap in between the boards, put a joiner board. There's a video on this, and just a simple Z for structural support, and big hinges from a local hinge maker or metal worker that I know, and they've been great. They haven't moved. They're good summer and winter. And so we'll head into the second room. So this room, I'm still thinking through the layout of it, but for now I've got the 3 large windows at the front where you can see the stream. And the stream right now is about as high as it would get. Sometimes it gets a little higher. But it's spring now, so we've had a lot of snow melt, rain the last 2 nights, and the stream waters and water in the woods and roads in the woods and stuff are quite wet. But anyway, I really enjoy sitting out here and watching the stream, opening the windows, and listening to the sounds. But yeah, so the front of the room has these 3 windows. On the downstream side, I have a desk, and that's where I will either work or edit video and that type of thing. And then on the upstream side, I have a bit of a coffee corner, I guess, and it's one of the probably the main real luxury at the cabin is I do have a nice coffee machine and can use that, and that's powered off of a Bluetti unit that's down here. And I kind of have my solar, and I'll talk about this in another video, but my solar is sort of broken in two. So I have a downstairs unit that powers the downstairs and a bit smaller upstairs unit that powers the upstairs. But this particular unit has enough power to power a coffee machine, which draws like 1500 watts. So it does take a fair amount of power. Again, this is the downstream side of the cabin, or the west side of the cabin. And here, so again, my desk, Bluetti unit, and I use this for the coffee machine, as I mentioned, but also for charging all my devices, and it's quite convenient to be able to charge them next to my desk. This chair moves around. Sometimes it's out by the fire. Right now it's in here. And this is a door, although I built it as a door and it functions as a door, but the more I think about it, I'm not certain that I'm going to really use this door very often, but I do think it's important to have a second exit to the cabin. And this unit here is a small, well, refrigerator, or runs off of the Bluetti. So the Bluetti's charged by solar, so this effectively runs off solar, but it'll keep things cool. You can set the temperature down as low as you want. I mean, not as low as you want, but fairly low. And keeps things cool and works quite well. And it's by a company named Vivor. So I've had it for a year, no issues. It draws 50 or 60 watts when it needs to, and then it'll reach the temperature it's set at, and then after it climbs up a few degrees, it'll turn back on again. So you might be able to hear it just turned on, probably because I had it open. I do have another light wired in here too, so there's a light, and this light is wired into the Bluetti unit on a switch, and it lights up this room. And then at the front of the cabin, I built this multi-purpose. Sometimes when I build things, I don't necessarily know what they're going to be for, but countertop with some storage underneath, and then some storage underneath that again. When I built it, I thought a couple things. I thought it could be like I could have stools here, and maybe it would be a place to eat. But I've mostly just used it for a bit of storage, and sometimes I will do my editing on here rather than on the desk because you can stand up. So that's this part of the extension room. And then we'll move to the last wall over here. And on this wall, I've got a bookshelf. And so kind of broke that down. I have books, and storage of some other things scattered throughout. Another coat hanger here, where I've got a few of my coats. And nothing too special there. Here, this is where the intersection of the old cabin and new cabin was. So what I did, because I wanted the dovetails to show on the outside, and so I built it, and anyway ended up needing to have a seam of concrete. That's how I chose to do it, just to seal off a gap that was created. But that's held up well. Did the same technique as I did doing the chinking of the cabin, where I used a wire mesh or hardware cloth, put the mortar mix on that, and it's done very well. So now we'll head upstairs, and I'll show you the upstairs level. This ladder is new from when I last did a tour of the cabin, and the reason I changed the ladder is the first ladder I put in, it was easy to get up. It had storage in it, but it was really just too big. So with this ladder, if you're sitting on the couch and I have a chair over here, there's not a barrier to being able to see who else is in the cabin. It's not perfect. I still go back and forth on which ladder I like the best, but for now we have this one. So we'll head upstairs and do a tour of the upstairs of the cabin. So when you first come up the stairs to this part of the cabin, on your left is the upstairs solar area. And so I have an older Bluetti unit, a little lower capacity, that's hooked up to my outside solar panels from the roof of the cabin. And they charge this with some generator backup if needed. And this powers my internet, some lights, some charging, and a cell phone signal booster. The cell phone booster comes into the cabin here and then is wired down, and the part that gives off the amplified signal is downstairs. And then I just have under here some storage, so some of my wires and clothing and I think gloves or something underneath there. So this is what you see on the left-hand side when you come up the cabin. I call this kind of the walkway. Not a lot here other than I have my closet, let's call it. So some clothing hanging, some storage underneath. This is the way you get to the bedroom, is following this walkway. And this is the bedroom at the upper level of the cabin, so it's at the back of the cabin. And so the bedroom, pretty simple. I have the bed here, some storage in front of the bed. I do have some stuff to finish at the upstairs of the cabin. I still haven't finished the chinking in the gable ends. That'll hopefully be something I get to soon. But in terms of the bedroom, the bed's there. I have a small Bluetti unit to charge phones and whatnot at night. And then at the front of the bed, some storage that I built in as well. And then upstairs in general, the way the rafters come down, there's little cubby storage areas all along. So I have a few things in some of those. And the stovepipe comes up through the bedroom, and I have a temperature gauge here. And this is nice because I can't see the fire from up here, but I can look at this gauge at night to get an idea of what the fire is doing and whether or not it needs wood. So now we'll head back across the cabin and go out in the loft. This loft is a really nice feature of the cabin, and I surprisingly don't spend as much time up here as you might think, although whenever I do, I enjoy it. You have a really nice view of the stream from a different angle, and from this angle you can see the wildlife in the stream much clearer. So if you sit here, when the water's a little more calm, you can see the fish or the lamprey eels when they'll come up in the next months, turtles sometimes, beaver, otter, different things that travel along and through the stream. But yeah, the loft's really nice. I keep the rocking chair up here, and sometimes I'll come up and have a tea or coffee, work on a video, that sort of thing up here. I did go ahead and screen in the front of the loft, which makes it useful for a lot more of the year. So if you wanted to stay up here during the mosquito season, it's not as much of an issue when it's screened in. And so I'm hoping to enjoy that more come May, June, July this year. And last night I was up here, there was a rain, pretty heavy rain, and it was really nice. You can just sit here, hear the rain hitting off the metal roof, watch the stream, listen to it all, and that was really nice. So this is the loft of the cabin. And so that's about the end of this video. I'm sure there's some things I missed, but that's a tour of the cabin, its layout. In terms of dimensions of the cabin, so the way I'd break it down is the main room of the cabin, the original cabin is 12 feet by 12 feet. So the width of everything is 12 feet wide. The front room is 12 feet wide by 10 feet long. The bedroom, I think, is 12 feet wide by about, maybe it's also around 10 feet long. The walkway in the middle is 6 feet wide and 12 feet long. And the front sort of storage solar area would be 12 feet wide by 7 feet long. And then the loft at the front is 12 feet by 5 feet. So it works out that, especially with the addition, that there seems to be quite an amount of space, and if you're here with someone or with other people, you can space out a little bit. If someone wanted to stay, I would, for example, there'd be the bedroom up there, and then you could put an air mattress in that room, or there's the couch as well. So anyway, that's a tour of the cabin. Hope you found this useful, and I'm excited about my next projects coming up, which involve some round logs and working with them. and hopefully I'll have a video out on that. We've already started that project, but I just haven't done any video work on it. But in the next couple weeks, I hope to have a video out showing what I'm up to there with myself and my neighbor. So anyway, thanks for watching, have a good week, and see you on the next video.